Hey guys, I'm Tara, and you're listening to Raw Relationships Are Work, the podcast all about the relationships that shape us romantic, family, friendship, and even the one we have with ourselves. Every episode is centered around a letter that opens the door to a conversation. Today, we're talking about listening, not just hearing the words, but truly listening. Because there's a difference. And when it's missing, you do feel it. Let me start with a letter that came in. It says, Dear Tara, lately I've been feeling invisible in my relationship. I'll try to talk about my day or something that's bothering me, and my partner will nod, maybe say, but their eyes are on their phone or the TV. When I bring it up, they say they are listening, but I don't feel like they are. I'm not looking for a therapist. I just want to feel what I say actually lands. Am I being too sensitive, or is it fair to want more? Okay, so let's talk about it. First of all, you are not being too sensitive. Wanting to feel seen and heard isn't needy, it's human. And what you're describing, that's not just a communication issue, it's really a connection issue. So maybe try to think of it in this way. Hearing versus listening, right? Hearing is automatic. It's sound hitting your ears like background noise. While listening is active, it's attention, it's care, it's curiosity. Listening is intentional. It's not just about processing words, it's about catching meaning, emotion, and energy. It's the difference between, say, I heard you say something was wrong versus I noticed your tone changed. What's really going on? Did you pick up on that difference? One is I heard something. The other one is I noticed. And then there's a follow up. When we listen, when we really listen, we're saying, you matter. I'm here. When we're present, people feel valued. But when we don't feel listened to, we feel dismissed, even if the words were technically heard. But being half there, it chips away at trust. Over time, people stop sharing things altogether, not because they don't care anymore, but because they've learned that their words fall flat. And relationships suffer because of that. In romantic relationships, it could lead to resentment. In families, it can lead to silence. In friendships, it can lead to distance. So you're probably thinking, oh no, why does this happen? What if I'm the one doing it? Well, it happens. And here's the truth though. Most people don't realize that they're tuning out. It's not always intentional. It's habit, it's stress, it can be distraction. And sometimes we check out because we're overwhelmed or tired. But sometimes it happens because we were never modeled. We were never taught what intentional listening actually looks like. So we think presence means being in the room, not actually being present. But guess what? You simply taking up space, that's not a present. And I'm using it in this way intentionally, right? The gift is the time, it's the attention, the care, the being tuned in that goes into communication, whether that is verbal communication or nonverbal communication. That is what shows real connection, not just the illusion of it. And you might be thinking, okay, that's great. We know what it looks like and what it feels like from both sides. Now what? Well, here's the what. For the listener who feels unheard, say what you need. Don't assume that people know. Ask for the person's presence, not performance. You don't need a speech. You just want attention. Name your feelings, not just their actions. Try saying, you know what, I feel disconnected. Or instead of, saying something like, you never listen. Or, you're not hearing me because you don't want them to just hear you. You want them to listen. And for, let's say, the listener who I'm saying listener, meaning the audience, but for the person who's struggling to stay present, if you want a healthy connection, you have got to check back in. Ask yourself, am I distracted because I don't want to engage or because I'm busy or exhausted? Be honest. Maybe say, you know what? I want to give you my full attention, but I can't right this second. Can we talk in 15 minutes? Something as simple as that, right? And then when you do actually make the time to have the conversation, to sit there and to listen, even, you have to engage your active listening skills. Again, we're not talking just about hearing that sound, we're talking about actively listening. Well, what does that mean, Tara? Well, kind listener, I am glad you asked. It means watch your body language, face them, put down distractions, because this matters more than we admit to ourselves. Make eye contact, or if that's difficult, at least turn toward them and show your attention. Pause. Okay, so this comes up here because sometimes when we have that hearing, listening thing, it's because, or it's during, say, a discussion or a disagreement or an argument, even, and both people want to get their ideas out. They want to get their feelings out. And you feel that you're talking at cross purposes because the other person isn't listening to what it is you have to say. So pause before responding instead of jumping in. Paraphrase, repeat, reflect back on what you hear. So you could say something like, so it sounds like you felt overlooked at work today, or I hear how frustrated you are, not just at the situation, but at how alone you feel in it. When you do things like that, it shows that you actually got it. Not that you just heard the words, but you actually got what the person is trying to say, what they're trying to convey, what they're feeling. And here's the key to that. You don't always have to fix whatever the problem may be. You don't always have to fix it. If someone is talking to you about something, say that a problem that they're having or something, just a feeling that they have, and they may just want to vent or what have you. The thing is, though, you don't always have to fix it. Sometimes people aren't asking for solutions. They're just asking to not feel invisible. And active listening is what gives them that. It slows the conversation down. It helps you to stay curious instead of defensive. It helps the other person feel safe enough to keep being honest. And sometimes getting into this kind of a groove, this change from just hearing and not necessarily actively engaging, actively listening, takes practice. And one way to do that, though, is to create, say, like a connection window. Even something like 10 minutes of somebody's undivided attention each day, it can shift the energy in a relationship. And that brings me to my scripture. James chapter 1, verse 19 says, "Let every person be quick to hear, slow to speak, slow to anger." This verse doesn't just mean hear what someone said. It's calling us to intentional, reflective, emotionally engaged listening. And that's the kind that keeps us from interrupting, from defending, or reacting in anger. That kind of listening honors the person that's speaking. It makes us also, think about, are we truly listening? Are we truly hearing with our hearts? Or are we just letting words pass by while we stay in our heads, our phones, our defenses? James 1:19 reminds us that real love listens, and listening unlike hearing, requires humility, patience, and presence, especially in our closest relationships. When we rush to speak, or worse, when we rush to defend ourselves, we miss the heart of what someone is trying to say. But when we slow down, when we choose to really listen, we create space for understanding. We create space for connection. We create space for healing. And this is not just good communication. That is actually love in practice. It's emotional maturity to listen first, to really hear what's beneath the words, and to not ignore, but to respond, really respond, not with heat, but with heart. Here's some things to maybe think about, maybe some questions to reflect on, to ask ourselves. Do I feel truly heard in my relationships? Do I offer the kind of listening I want to receive? What small change could I make, maybe today, maybe this week, to be more present with others and with myself? I think that these are important things to think about because, again, listening versus hearing, it takes work. It takes intention. And for some of us, it takes practice. The reason that this difference between hearing and listening matters so much in relationships is because it speaks to the core need of every human. Everybody has it, to be seen, to be known, to be valued. Hearing might catch the sound of someone's voice, but it doesn't catch the weight of their words. It doesn't notice the change in their tone, the hurt behind their silence, or the courage, sometimes the courage it took for them to even speak in the first place. Listening, on the other hand, is an act of love. It says, I care enough to be here with you fully. It says, your words matter to me, and so do you. When someone listens to you, really listens, you feel safe. You feel like you're not alone in what you're carrying. And when people stop listening, even if they're still in the room, you start to feel like you don't matter. And that's how disconnection begins, quietly, gradually, but ultimately powerfully. So this isn't just a matter of being a better communicator. It's about being a better partner, a better friend, a better parent, a better sibling, a better child, a better you. When we stop settling for, I heard you, and start practicing, I'm listening, we invite closeness back in. We rebuild trust. We create space for intimacy. We create space for relationship. So, if you've been feeling unheard, let this be a reminder. Your voice matters. You're allowed to ask for more. If this episode hit home for you, share it with someone who needs to hear, not just with their ears, but their heart. And if this episode made you pause, reflect, or even feel a little seen, I'd love to hear from you. You can send your own Dear Tara letter to relationshipsourwork@gmail.com or leave me a message on WhatsApp. Do you want to connect more, shop my journals, or check out both this podcast and the Unfiltered Perspective podcast, where my co-hosts Kimberly, Leslie, and I talk about life, love, laughs, and lessons learned? Well, you'll find everything in one place at linktree/revealyou. That's linktr.ee/revealyou. Until next time, remember, relationships are work, but the work is worth it. Bye.